It's the coronavirus. Yeah, it's the. Okay, maybe we should go a little bit more into detail. Hello everyone, my name is Nick Owens. Welcome back to the channel. If you guys are new here, you'll know that this is kind of just a newer topic that we've done. But if you're an old-time viewer of the channel, specifically watching this video, we're going to go ahead and talk about something that's very fun, or is it over here? I can't tell. I'll link the video somewhere. We're going to talk about something that we talked about in our very first video on this channel, which was how the coronavirus is changing the gaming industry. In that video, I mentioned delays for games coming out around a certain date, and I think it's safe to say I kind of hit that nail on the head, with Destiny 2, which was originally supposed to launch in September, getting pushed to November, and Cyberpunk, well, it had multiple delays, but the most recent one also pushed it back to November. There are some other titles that also had delays, so those are the big two that we're going to talk about today, and we're going to talk about why these delays are happening, how I called it so early on, and also the challenges facing gaming studios in this new environment. Let's go ahead and get started. Like I talked about in that first video way back in like March or April, something like that, there are a few new challenges facing the games industry now that we're all working from home. Those challenges now are kind of new, or they're not necessarily new anymore, but they're certainly still challenges, and they definitely still impact how we work. Let's talk about one of the ones that I mentioned before, which was hardware access. Now, Epic Games, of course, like I mentioned in a previous video, as well as in videos before, multiple videos I'm pretty sure, Epic has given us most of our work at home, most of our office equipment. So I have a monitor from work, I have my keyboard and mouse from work, I have my work PC from work, I have phones, I have a PS4 test kit. I have a lot of stuff that I can test on. This is good. I know some people probably don't have those same privileges, especially if you're a contractor. Contractors are not going to get the same amount of privileges that full-time people do, simply because of just how contracts work. That's just how the industry works. Hardware access limits things that actually affect the development of the game, whether that be testing the game, or coding the game, or creating an art asset for the game, etc. But there's also another thing that comes with hardware access, especially now that we're working from home, and that's software access. Software access is typically not an issue for Epic because we all have our work from home stuff, but other studios, if they don't have their work PCs or something like that, then they're not going to be able to use the same softwares. You're probably wondering why we can't use the same softwares, and this is mainly due to a security risk. No one wants their game getting leaked. No one. We want to keep everything kind of hush-hush until everything's ready to be announced, and we don't want to be forced to make a statement on a leak. It just doesn't, it's never healthy for any game. So, what do? Well, to get by this, we typically run VPNs. Obviously, that's a virtual private network. It allows us to bypass our personal network and connect to another one. For most companies, this just means bouncing from your network to the company network, which has more firewalls and protection, requires two-factor authentication, a sign-in, just more security than your normal home network, which is, understandable. There's certain assets and certain documents and certain conversations and all of this stuff that you don't want getting out. Not because it's horrible, big, bad, but because it's related to the business, certain conversations involving future plans of the game, certain conversations involving issues that are being addressed currently or won't be addressed, issues or art assets that are being interested in, any tie-ins or crossovers. Like, can you imagine if there was a huge leak with the older Fortnite events that involved Marvel or DC or any of the Star Wars? Can you imagine if that leaked? If that stuff leaked, that would be so bad, because of course it would be bad from the game standpoint, but also whoever did the leak would have Epic's legal team on them and Disney's or Warner Brothers, depending on if it was DC or Marvel/Star Wars. NDAs are no joke. We need to make sure that all of this stuff is kept under wraps. So VPNs, right? Solves all of our problems. Not really. VPNs definitely help, but there are certain things that people can't access with a VPN, and that's just because sometimes companies being paranoid about what can and can't be accessed, and sometimes there's a legitimate reason for it, like your hardware doesn't have permissions to access it, or something along the lines of like you can't access it because of how the VPN is set up. The VPN prohibits certain activities on it rather than on the actual network, because you are going through another network, you're just bypassing it, so the security is not, you know, entirely foolproof at this point. And there's a lot of different back and forth happening on what can and can't be done. This also limits game development. A lot of this stuff has to be planned out in advance, and it can take a long time for certain things to come into fruition. A new season of Fortnite, for example, everyone knows that there's a pretty big delay between seasons. There's a reason we don't just release a season every week. We have to plan it out in advance, and we have to get everything ready for it. Otherwise, everything would look like trash, and it wouldn't be good. Cyberpunk specifically probably has issues like this. With the game as massive as Cyberpunk, with so many quests that it's going to have, a huge open world that's going to be detailed, characters, voice lines, weapons, skill trees, UI, then there's the brain dance system, which looks like it's probably going to have a lot of bugs if I had to guess. There's a lot of different things going on in Cyberpunk that require more testing, more polish, and, you know, with working from home, you can't sink the same hours into it. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, the video game industry is full of clutch. Some companies are probably crunching from home. Some probably are. Most won't, I don't think. I can't speak for every company, but I can speak for my experience at Epic. Epic doesn't want us to do that much crunch at home because they don't want our living space to become our workspace. Like, it already is, and my setup is sitting in the middle of my apartment, so my work PC and my personal PC are the same spot, which kind of hurts. But for people that, you know, live in a house, or they live obviously somewhere, for that place to also become their new office where they work, and then they have to crunch in their own house, think of the morale drop you have when you know that your bed is 10 feet away, but you have to work for like 6 more hours. It just wouldn't work. Cyberpunk, obviously, with a game as big as that, they've been saying that it needs polish, and with a game as big as that, even just Fortnite has, you know, issues that we have to address right then and there, critical issues that can break the game, or sometimes just a lot of issues, a lot of smaller issues that we have to address. With a game, when the game gets bigger, the more bugs appear. The more features you add, the more bugs appear. It's just how games work. There's correlation between number of features and number of bugs. That's why Pong has like no bugs. Destiny 2 is a little bit of a weird one in my opinion. They obviously delayed because of work from home. I see no reason for them to have delayed for anything besides work from home. There's also the possibility that they're delaying because they're working from home and also don't have the support of Activision Blizzard's external studios anymore, which is pretty big. I think Vicarious Visions were the people who did the previous work for Destiny 2 alongside Bungie. Not having access to an external studio is pretty bad. Losing, you know, your workforce like that due to a partner split up is never going to be good. So I would expect Bungie to have some sort of delay regarding that as well. Now, work from home on a game from service, or games as a service model, that I can speak of because that's what Fortnite is. Fortnite is a games as a service. It's a free-to-play game that has a service attached to it, which is, you know, constant updates, monetization opportunities with skins and weapon wraps and all that stuff. And then you have the main game, which is Battle Royale. Now, people can argue that Save the World is the main game, but let's be honest, it's not. Destiny 2 is a games as a service model, and because of that, they have a lot of stuff they have to take into account. Bungie, now that they're split up, they can put less emphasis on the Eververse, although I don't know if they will, but they're going to add some cool new stuff to the game, which is great. Not to mention, Beyond Light is going to be massive from what we've seen. new subclasses that are giving the player new agency in how they control the environment, with adding architectures with vertical walls and horizontal platforms, shatter effects, which requires enemies to stand still, and then the physics or the simulation of them literally breaking into like millions of little pieces, which is always hard to do. And then we have a brand new planet, which is Europa, which, if we're judging by the size of Europa shown on the UI screen they gave us a while back, it's going to be a massive planet. They have new strikes, a new story, new raids, new enemies. Well, not raids, just a raid probably. New enemies, and then of course they're bringing back, if you guys hadn't heard, they're bringing back the Destiny 1 Cosmodrome, which is, if they just bring it in as is and they don't add anything new to it, it'll get kind of stale pretty quick. But there's going to be some new strikes there as well that they have to tune up. They can't just put in Destiny 1 graphics anymore. They're going to have to upscale it. They might add new loot to it. Who knows? Maybe we'll get. I know they said they wanted to bring back Vogue, which is Vault of Glass, which is the Year 1 Destiny raid on Mercury, I believe. Or no, Venus. It's on Venus. So we might get some of that later in the year or early 2021. But there's a lot going at play there. So all in all, let's revisit what I said before in a video. I'm not going to play you the old clip. I'll just say it. I expected a lot of games around this time to get delays. And I think that I called it. Although a lot of games that are AAA are really not being delayed right now. And I think that's because they were announced later in development than some of these other titles. Cyberpunk was announced really early. Destiny 2 Beyond Light was announced pretty early as well, all things considered. So that also explains it. But some other games, like Assassin's Creed, have not been given a delay at all. Halo Infinite was just given a release date, it was given holiday 2020, so they're keeping it kind of loose, but I highly doubt that's going to be delayed because of the release of the Xbox One. And there's just a lot of stuff that's not getting delayed. So, was I right in my assumption that everything is going to be delayed? Games is tricky. We don't know. We simply don't know how the inner workings of a company work. I can speak from my experience, but Fortnite is such a different game than everything else that it doesn't really work. If you guys want to know my opinions on that type of stuff, leave a comment down below, and I'll address it in a future video. But I don't think that there's going to be a lot of delays. I think there's going to be significant delays in the sense that games are going to get delayed for a few months. Now, around this time, if games are getting delayed, it would at this point normally mean that they're going into 2021. And releasing quarter one of a new year normally isn't the best strat, because quarter four is when a bunch of hot games come out, a bunch of hot AAA titles come out, and they drive the sales. And then once they drive the sales, quarter one comes around, people are playing those games for a while. So typically games won't come out until quarter two of the next year. And then they ramp up again as the year progresses. So I would expect games to not be delayed at this point, or if they are, they're getting very slight delays, or they're getting pushed to the new year. We won't know for sure. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you guys want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is going to be right here. You can also find it in my Instagram link down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps me out in the YouTube algorithm and also helps me understand what people are liking in my content. Leave a comment if you guys have any feature suggestions or you guys have questions. I'll try and answer as they come in. I don't know what we're going to do for next week's video. Depends on what's coming out. Might talk about the League of Legends European, the LEC partnership. That's something that's kind of big that's happening. Maybe some stuff in the streaming world again, or maybe I'll do a day in the life of me working from home, so you guys can actually see what it's like working as a game developer from home. If you guys want to see any of those videos, make sure you let me know on one of those platforms below, Twitter or the comment section, or on Instagram if you guys want to hit me up there. All three are fine. Until next week, I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.